vielleicht nur als Impulsant.
Hello and a very warm welcome. You're watching Gravitas with me, Molly Gambhir. Let's get started. Our top story tonight on Gravitas is on how a desperate Pakistan army is playing with fire. With yet another missile test fired, we decode the implications for you, and that's coming up in just a bit. And here's a look at what else is lined up for you on the show tonight. We tell you about India's major UNSC diplomatic push and how Pakistan has not been able to find backers at the high table. Israeli leaders have approved a plan focused on capturing all of Gaza. The question is, why now? And what exactly is the goal? What's part of the plan? We break it all down for you. All this and more coming up. Pakistan is playing with fire. Days after the terror attack in Kashmir left 26 dead, Islamabad is flexing its military muscle with missile tests and rhetoric to mask its fatal vulnerabilities. The world watches as Islamabad scrambles for attention through military bravado, knowing well that a war with India is a gamble it simply cannot afford. While India towers as an economic and military powerhouse, Pakistan stands weakened, internally divided and on the verge of collapse. A full-scale confrontation would not only obliterate its already fragile systems, but also expose the myth of parity between the two countries. Let's just break down the hard facts that make war a suicidal fantasy for Pakistan. In a bid to Project Resolve, Pakistan today conducted its second missile test since April 22nd. The Fatah missile was tested as part of Exercise Indus, but these launches are more about optics than capability. A surface-to-surface weapon with a range of just 120 kilometers is nothing more than a desperate stunt. The timing is deliberate, the purpose transparent, to bluff its way out of a real confrontation. Now, let's get real. India's military strength outclasses Pakistan's on every front. Since the 2019 Balakot strikes, New Delhi has aggressively upgraded its arsenal, newer, deadlier weapon systems, air defense systems, Rafale jets, cyber warfare capabilities and naval dominance. India's massive troop strength, battle-tested command structure give it a decisive edge in any prolonged engagement. In contrast, Pakistan's outdated fleet and limited resources would crumble under sustained pressure. Rating agency Moody's has made it clear rising tensions hurt Pakistan far more than India. India's robust economy can absorb the impact of a conflict. Pakistan, however, is already on IMF life support. Skyrocketing inflation, plummeting foreign reserves, and a battered rupee make even short-term conflict financially ruinous for Islamabad. A war would mean economic suicide. And then there's India's powerful geopolitical move after India announced to put the Indus Waters Treaty in abeyance in response to the Pahalgam terror attack. The locals living close to two dams on the Chenab River say that the water is flowing at its lowest in the river. According to sources, the flow of water has been restricted through both Baglihar and Salal hydropower projects. This is a clear signal. India holds the high ground. And water, Pakistan's lifeline, is now a potent tool in India's strategic arsenal. You see, Pakistan is battling itself, and Imran Khan's party refuses to cooperate with the government, demanding his immediate release. The political instability is tearing the nation apart. A country at war with its own leadership has no business dreaming of an external conflict. And while Islamabad postures against India, the real war is within. The Baloch Liberation Army has launched major attacks, and former CM Akhtar Mengal has threatened protests outside army cantonments. The call for justice in Balochistan is rising, and the army is losing control. You see, war is not an option for Pakistan. It's an invitation to disintegration. India will not just win militarily, it will break Pakistan economically, diplomatically. Islamabad must choose wisely before bluffing again. And we now shift our attention to a deja vu unfolding in Pakistan, a situation that is eerily similar to the past, raising critical questions about whether Pakistan is once again heading towards political uncertainty. As tensions continue to rise sharply between India and Pakistan, Pakistan Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif held a telephonic conversation with his Malaysian counterpart Anwar Ibrahim. According to Pakistani media outlets, during the call with the Malaysian Prime Minister, Sharif denied any involvement in the recent terror attack in Jammu and Kashmir's Pahalgam, further claiming that Pakistan has always opposed terrorism. Sharif tried to justify this by pointing to the country's fragile economy, claiming that as Pakistan is reeling from a severe economic crisis, it as such seems to have little to gain and everything to lose from engaging in such hostile activities. Now, these words sound eerily similar to statements from the past, begging the question, is history repeating itself? Let's just rewind to 1999. According to Pakistani journalist Naseem Zehra's account in the book From Kargil to the Coup, at the height of the Kargil conflict, then Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif, Shehbaz Sharif's brother, only learned the full extent of the Pakistan military's activities after confronting General Pervez Musharraf. Coming back to the present, is Pakistan's Army Chief Asim Munir in a similar situation, especially due to his fiery rhetoric just days before the Pahalgam terror attack. Munir notably was Pakistan's ISI chief during the 2019 Pulwama terror attack that killed 40 Indian security personnel, leading to India's Balakot airstrikes. A committee led by Munir reportedly was strongly in favor of Pakistan military responding against India after the Balakot airstrikes. But within months, Munir was removed as the ISI chief. His tenure lasted a mere 8 months, the shortest in the agency's history. Munir's sudden removal, according to him, stemmed from attempts to investigate corruption linked to then Prime Minister Imran Khan's wife. Khan has repeatedly accused Munir of holding a personal vendetta and even conspiring to kill him. The Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf, Khan's party, continues to remain his biggest opponent. In fact, PTI boycotted a high-level security briefing on the escalating tensions with India, refusing to endorse what they describe as a hollow attempt at national unity, and demanding instead that Imran Khan be included in any serious dialogue. Meanwhile, Sharif, during his call with the Malaysian Prime Minister, also claimed that India's actions are diverting Pakistan's focus from counter-terrorism efforts along its western frontier, where Taliban notably has intensified its operations against Pakistan, even as internal unrest continues to brew. In Balochistan, the leader of the Balochistan National Party, Mengal, announced the start of what he calls a new era of political resistance, denouncing Islamabad's repeated failure to protect Baloch rights. Amid all the internal and external pressures, history in Pakistan seems to be repeating itself, just with different faces, but similar patterns. The question still is whether Pakistan will once again lose control of its own narrative. And we're shifting focus for now to some breaking news coming in right this minute. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres has urged for maximum restraint amid tensions between India and Pakistan over the Pahalgam terror attack. Guterres has said that the nuclear-armed countries must step back from the brink of war, telling reporters that relations have reached a boiling point and that it was quote-unquote essential to avoid a military confrontation that could easily spin out of control. Now is the time for maximum restraint and stepping back from the brink. That's the message coming in. Speaking of the terror attack itself, Guterres said that the targeting of civilians is unacceptable and those responsible must be brought to justice through transparent, credible and lawful means. Listen in.
I once again strongly condemn that attack and extend my condolences to the families of the victims. Targeting civilians is unacceptable and those responsible must be brought to justice through credible lawful means. It is also essential, especially at this critical hour, to avoid a military confrontation that could easily spin out of control. Now is the time for maximum restraint and stepping back from the brink.
All right, let's go straight across now to our correspondent, Susan Teherani, with us on the broadcast. Susan, what more can you share with us at this point?
Well, Guterres also added a military solution is no solution. And he also said that he offers his good offices to both governments in the service of peace. He also said that the United Nations stands ready to support any initiative that promotes de-escalation, diplomacy, and a renewed commitment to peace. He also acknowledged that tensions between India and Pakistan are indeed at their highest level in years. He made those statements here at the United Nations Security Council in New York. He didn't take any questions from reporters. However, later on today, behind closed doors is a meeting of the Security Council that was initiated by Pakistan. Closed-door meetings usually don't have any outcome. We'll have to wait and see if anything concrete, tangible, or even any news comes out of that meeting. The Pakistani ambassador to the UN has said that he's going to come and speak to reporters at the stakeout or make a statement immediately after that closed-door meeting. So we're on the lookout. We're watching a lot happening at the UN today. But tangible results and conclusions, that's very elusive, as it always is with the Security Council.
All right, Susan, we're leaving it there for the moment. Thanks very much for joining us with those updates. India is preparing for a major diplomatic move at the United Nations Security Council to push for a discussion on cross-border terrorism. This amid UNSC's closed-door meeting on India-Pakistan tensions. India seeks to focus on Pakistan-sponsored outfits operating in Jammu and Kashmir. This on the back of the Pahalgam terror attack that claimed 26 lives. The Russian President Vladimir Putin has backed Prime Minister Modi in its fight against terrorism, and with this, India has the support of 4 out of 5 permanent members of the UNSC, the US, the UK, France and Russia, excluding China. These permanent members of the Council can use their veto power. India's diplomatic pitch, in fact, builds on its long-standing stance that terror groups like Lashkar-e-Toiba and Jaish-e-Mohammed enjoy patronage from Pakistan's military intelligence establishment. The UNSC discussion, if tabled, is expected to highlight the growing frequency and sophistication of cross-border attacks, such as the Pahalgam terror attack. The brutal attack was initially claimed and later retracted by the Resistance Front, the TRF, and LET proxy. Indian intelligence has directly linked the attack to handlers across the line of control. On the other hand, Pakistan, a non-permanent member of the UNSC, is raking up the India-Pakistan tensions. However, it hasn't been able to find backers at the high table. The UNSC has agreed to hold a closed-door meeting with Pakistan at 8 a.m. GMT, 1:30 a.m. IST. The meeting comes after Islamabad requested for an emergency meeting with the Council, which is being presided over by Greece for the month of May. Pakistan aims to highlight the issue under the header Threats to International Peace and Security. The Pakistani Foreign Ministry in a statement saying that the country will formally apprise the UNSC of the latest developments in South Asia. It plans to raise the Indus Waters Treaty being put into abeyance by the Indian side. India's former ambassador to the UN, Saeed Akbaruddin, who was the Indian ambassador to the UN when the last such closed-door meeting took place in 2019, says from his experience that no significant outcome is expected from the informal closed-door consultation. Speaking to WION, he says, and I'm quoting him, Pakistan's initiative is a public diplomacy effort aimed at shaping perceptions rather than advancing negotiations, quote unquote. Shifting focus for now, Israeli leaders have approved a plan focused on capturing all of Gaza following nearly 19 months of continuous warfare and relentless attacks on the Palestinian territory. Israel has decided to intensify its military efforts. According to reports, Israel's security cabinet has endorsed a plan to seize control of the entire Gaza Strip for an indefinite period. What is the plan, you ask? It reportedly outlines efforts to capture and hold territories, and it aims to prevent Hamas from distributing humanitarian assistance, which Israel claims only bolsters Hamas's grip on Gaza. And the plan also includes conducting powerful strikes against Hamas targets and will be implemented gradually. If executed, this plan could mean a broadened Israeli operation in Gaza, potentially worsening the already critical humanitarian situation. Cabinet ministers finalized the plan in an early morning vote on Monday, just hours after the Israeli military announced plans to mobilize tens of thousands of reserve soldiers. Prime Minister Netanyahu's administration aims to increase pressure on Hamas to release hostages and negotiate a ceasefire favorable to Israel. And according to officials, the new plan has been designed to help Israel achieve its military objectives against Hamas. Since the breakdown of a US brokered truce between Israel and Hamas in mid-March, The Israeli Defense Forces have launched fierce attacks on Palestinian territories, resulting in numerous casualties. According to Israel, it controls a substantial portion of Gaza, but even prior to the ceasefire's collapse, Israel had cut off all humanitarian aid to Gaza, including essentials like food, fuel, water. It triggered what is now considered the worst humanitarian crisis in nearly 19 months of the war. In fact, discussions have been going on with various countries regarding a controversial plan attributed to President Trump. It involves relocating Gaza's population under the guise of voluntary emigration. This proposal has drawn criticism from both European allies and the Arab world. The thing is, for weeks now, Israel has tried to heighten pressure on Hamas to encourage more flexibility in ceasefire talks. However, international mediators have found it challenging to facilitate any new agreement, as Israel's tactics have not exactly shifted Hamas's negotiating stance. The previous ceasefire was intended to set the stage for negotiations to end the war, but this goal has repeatedly stalled in discussions. Israel maintains that it will not agree to cease hostilities until Hamas is defeated, while Hamas insists on reaching an agreement that de-escalates the war. And before we move on any further, here's a quick look at what else is lined up for you on the show tonight. We tell you how Israel stands humiliated after a missile launched by the Houthis beat its aerial defenses and struck near the country's main airport. We tell you all about Iran's new ballistic missile. How does it stand out and what's the messaging? According to the British crime agency, Facebook is putting children's lives at risk by introducing end-to-end encryption for communications on Facebook. We get you the complete story. Israel's aura of invincibility was shattered in a dramatic fashion when a Houthi ballistic missile fired from Yemen tore through the most sophisticated missile defense shield in West Asia and struck the perimeter of the international airport near Tel Aviv. Our next report telling you more.
Boom! This is the moment when a missile fired by Houthis landed on Israel's largest airport. A plume of smoke into the air. Sirens blared. Air raid alerts echoed across central Israel, and chaos erupted as passengers and motorists scrambled for cover. Following threats from the Houthis, major airlines including German carrier Lufthansa, France's Air France, US carrier Delta and Hungary's Wizz Air have cancelled their scheduled flights to Tel Aviv. With Israel warning to give a decisive response to Yemen-based fighters, the Houthis in return have vowed to continue targeting Israel.
The Yemeni armed forces announced that they will work to impose a comprehensive air blockade on the Israeli enemy by repeatedly targeting airports, most notably Lod Airport, known in Israel as Ben Gurion Airport.
Despite multiple attempts, Israel's advanced Arrow and US-supplied THAAD systems failed to intercept the missile, exposing the limits of even the most modern air defense technology. THAAD first entered service in 2006, with the promise of revolutionizing the ability of American ground forces to intercept intermediate-range ballistic missiles in the upper atmosphere. While the primary threat against which THAAD was deployed was the Iranian ballistic missile arsenal, there are serious questions over its ability to withstand much more potent aerial attacks. The Houthis, bombarded for months by billions of dollars worth of munitions, 2 American aircraft carrier groups, and relentless airstrikes, have not only survived but escalated the conflict. In the last 45 days alone, they have launched over 40 missiles and drones at Israel, repeatedly targeting airports and warning of a comprehensive aerial blockade. This attack underscores a harsh truth. No missile defense system is foolproof. Hypersonic speeds, stealth technology, and unpredictable flight paths can overwhelm even the best. The Houthis, battered but unbroken, have rewritten the rules of asymmetric warfare, leaving Israel and the world to grapple with a new era of vulnerability. Bureau Report WION World is One.
Tensions in the skies over Syria have escalated dramatically as Israeli and Turkish military aircraft found themselves in a direct face-off this weekend. And according to both Turkish and Israeli media outlets, this confrontation unfolded when Turkish F-16 fighter jets reportedly entered Syrian airspace and started shadowing Israeli warplanes conducting a heavy round of airstrikes. And these Turkish jets, by the way, are said to have issued warning signals demanding the Israeli aircraft withdraw immediately. A claim reportedly dismissed by the IDF. Despite that denial, Turkish media outlets claiming the incident took place during one of Israel's most aggressive bombing campaigns in Syrian territory since the collapse of Bashar al-Assad in November last year. And targets of the Israeli strikes, according to various reports, included pro-Turkish militia groups in northern Syria, such as the Sultan Murad Division and the Suleiman Shah Brigade. To counter Israel's air operations, Turkish fighter jets also allegedly activated electronic warfare measures, jamming Israeli radar systems and sending repeated deterrent signals. Turkey in the past has publicly demanded that Israel cease all military actions inside Syria. In a statement, the IDF said it had executed precise strikes targeting weapon depots, missile sites, and anti-aircraft installations across Syria and vowed to persist with these missions to neutralize any emerging threats. The IDF also released a video of these airstrikes. Turkey has been working to establish a long-term foothold at several strategic air bases in Syria. The T4 air base in Homs and another site in Hama have reportedly seen deployments of Turkish drones and advanced air defense units. According to Israeli media outlets, Israel fears that assistance from Ankara could enable Syria to rebuild its military arsenal, enhance its missile range, and bolster its southern defenses, all of which could severely compromise Israel's security perimeter. In March, Israel is believed to have launched a missile strike on the T4 air base just hours before a Turkish military team was scheduled to arrive for an inspection. That attack destroyed vital infrastructure, including the air control tower and key runways. You see, the skies over Syria are now more crowded and more dangerous than ever as regional powers maneuver for dominance. With both Israel and Turkey refusing to back down, the risk of a larger military confrontation looms on the horizon. Meanwhile, Iran has unveiled a new ballistic missile that it says could potentially target American bases if a war breaks out. With a range of over 1,200 kilometers, Tehran's new missile called Qasem Basir could effectively target U.S. bases in West Asia, such as the ones located in Syria, Iraq, Kuwait, Bahrain, Qatar. At the missile launch, Iran's defense minister said that in case of an attack, Iran, in his words, is ready to respond with strength. Listen to his words.
If we are attacked and a war is imposed on us, we will respond with strength. We will target their interests and bases, and we will observe no restraint or limitation in doing so. We have no hostility toward neighboring countries. They are our brothers. However, U.S. bases will be our targets.
According to Iran's state-owned news media organization, the new missile underwent substantial modifications to its warhead design, facilitating it to dodge air missile defense systems and maneuver more effectively. In fact, the missile is also reportedly effective against electronic warfare due to its thermal imaging guidance system. The defense minister further said that the new missile struck its intended target located over 1,200 kilometers away, notably without any GPS guidance or any kind of deviation from its intended path. And during its maiden flight, it also bypassed multiple air defense systems and electronic interference. Now, the launch of the missile comes at a time when the fourth round of its nuclear talks with Washington is due in Rome. That was postponed for logistical reasons.
There was no cancellation of the meeting with 3 European powers, and it carried no specific message. It was merely due to logistical issues. Therefore, we are certainly ready to hold another meeting with the E3 with mutual agreement.
Since the start of the year, Iran has unveiled multiple missile cities, its largest ever drone, a new spy ship, and a deadly fighter jet, among other such ammunition. The Qasem Basir missile might be Tehran's latest move, but it's certainly keeping all its military options open, even if diplomatic breakthroughs fail. Shifting focus now to the war in Ukraine. Today, Russia has claimed to have launched offensive operations across multiple Ukrainian front lines. The Russian Defense Ministry said that its forces targeted key military infrastructure in Ukraine's Sumy, Kharkiv, Donetsk, Zaporizhia, Kherson. And according to the Russian Defense Ministry, over 150 locations were hit, including drone storage sites as well as deployment points. The Russian forces also claimed that their air defenses shot down 146 Ukrainian drones in the last 24 hours. And Ukraine also claimed battlefield wins. Ukrainian Defense Ministry reported intense fighting over 253 battles, to be precise, in just one day. Ukraine claimed that clashes took place in Russia's Kursk region. Ukrainian forces also said to have carried out missile artillery strikes against Russian military targets, including weapon storage and electronic warfare stations. As fierce fighting continued on the battlefield, diplomatic efforts continued on the side as well. US President Donald Trump has indicated that he might meet with the Russian president during his upcoming trip to Saudi Arabia in mid-May. And there's also a push from the US as well as European leaders for direct communication with Moscow to help end the war in Ukraine. Western diplomatic efforts aside, Russia seems to be cautious. Trump claims that EU leaders have urged him to engage with Putin, but Russia's top officials, including Putin, have emphasized their desire for a security framework that respects their interests. Putin also publicly stated that the use of nuclear weapons is not currently necessary. On the support front, Ukraine hopes to receive 3 million artillery shells this year, with significant contributions reportedly from Czech-led initiatives. President Zelensky is currently visiting Prague to boost military aid for Ukraine and discuss plans for F-16 training programs. As far as talks with Russia are concerned, the Ukrainian president remains skeptical about Russia's declared ceasefire plans for May 9, citing continuous attacks.
We believe that ceasefire is possible at any moment, even starting today, and should last for at least 30 days to give diplomacy a real chance. For example, in the past days, they have been saying that they want some partial ceasefire, but you should know that number of assaults these days was the highest in the past months. They conducted more than 200 assaults. I listened to the report by General Syrski. He told me that there were more than 200 assaults yesterday. So we do not believe them. Provocations are possible, and it depends on the Russians. If anyone still believes them, they can test it.
The Czech government has been a strong backer of Ukraine since the war started. In fact, the Czech government has also led an initiative to supply Ukraine with large caliber ammunition.
If someone has all the cards in their hand to end the war, then it is President Putin, who can do it with a single decision. But so far, the will has not appeared.
Remember, just last week, Putin declared a 3-day ceasefire over May 8 to 10 to mark the 80th anniversary of the victory of the Soviet Union and its allies over Nazi Germany in World War II. Zelensky has called the temporary truce call pointless. Instead, called for an unconditional ceasefire over at least 30 days. And so, as the fighting continues, the world watches closely. Can the diplomatic efforts aiming to broker peace come before military actions intensify further? We'll have to wait and watch for that answer. And our next story is about Elon Musk. Recently, he shared a post, the message, how it started versus how it's going. The occasion, the official declaration of his starbase into a city. In a vote cast by a small group of voters, most of whom are Musk's employees at SpaceX reportedly, it was decided that starbase will be made a full-fledged city and will contain the facilities of city life. Musk celebrated the moment on social media, saying that it had come a long way. He put up a post that featured 2 sets of images marking the before and after of his starbase. One is from the inauguration ceremony, where Musk and his associates were seen with shovels in the sand, and the other showing a full-fledged starbase office. What exactly is starbase? It is the facility and launch site for Musk's much-acclaimed SpaceX rocket program, one that is under contract with the Department of Defense and NASA, hoping to send astronauts to the moon as well as to Mars someday. In his spending plan, Trump seems to have been pretty generous to Musk and his SpaceX. Trump is reportedly seeking to reorient federal spending on space in a way that is likely to drive billions of dollars to Musk's space ambitions. And this also feeds into Musk's wish list, both at NASA and the Pentagon, where Trump is calling for a 13% increase in budgetary allocations, which are currently under consideration. By far, SpaceX is already the largest recipient of Pentagon spending, reportedly, on existing military low Earth orbit communication systems. In 2024, it secured $3.8 billion in federal contracts. Not just that, as per reports, Musk's wealth has grown exponentially through his term in Trump's administration, one that hardly comes as a surprise given the interests that have been talked about to influence the federal government under Trump. Not just that, remember the time when Trump promoted Musk's Tesla car on his White House lawn in a bid to boost the flailing automobile brand? Efforts like this one have borne fruit, with Tesla stock price reporting a nearly 4% increase last month after dropping almost 48% since Trump took office in January. Not just that, a few days ago, Trump also praised Musk, saying he is doing a fantastic job and had given him an open offer to stay in his role at the Department of Government Efficiency, or DOGE, for as long as he wants. Several experts saying this is merely Trump's payback for the approximately $300 million that Musk had allegedly spent on Trump's presidential election campaign. With DOGE, Musk has had a significant opportunity to advance his own business interests, and with his stint, Musk has deepened his reach with the federal government, with his companies Tesla and SpaceX accounting for at least $15.4 billion in government contracts over the past decade and span multiple agencies. On top of that, Musk's bid to reconstruct government agencies, where he has both the power and access to make critical decisions, could be an opportunity for him to enhance his personal wealth in a way and influence his future decision making. The question still is, how? Our next story is about Facebook and its sharp drop in reports of child sexual abuse on its platform. According to Britain's National Crime Agency, or NCA, Facebook reported nearly 7 million fewer incidents in 2024 as compared to the year before. And that's a drop of 40%. NCA officials blame Mark Zuckerberg's push for end-to-end encryption. According to the British Crime Agency, Facebook is putting children's lives at risk by introducing end-to-end encryption for communications on Facebook. They say that Facebook's end-to-end encryption, which is a security method, basically used to ensure that only the sender and receiver can read messages and view calls, makes it harder for the tech giant, allegedly, to detect and report abuse on its platform. So the very method used to secure users is now making it harder for the company to detect abuses on its platforms. How do the authorities know this? Because the decline in reporting such cases contrasts with all independent data showing online child sexual abuse has increased and is being amplified by the advent of AI. According to the UK's top crime agency, while other tech companies have also improved their detection, Facebook's numbers have fallen, which makes children on the platform less safe than other platforms. The end-to-end encryption method basically means that Facebook is unable to proactively identify an offense taking place and even provide proof of such offense taking place on its platform, even upon request. In evidence on Facebook to a Senate committee, the chief executive of America's National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, Michelle Dillon, had said, and I'm quoting here, when a platform voluntarily chooses to blind itself to child sexual exploitation by disabling its ability to detect and report abuse, it's not just losing a report, it is potentially losing a child. Every lost report can represent a child who may never be identified, rescued, or safeguarded. It means the child's ongoing abuse and repeated re-victimization will continue unchecked, while offenders remain free to exploit more victims in the shadows, quote unquote. And it's not just Facebook, X, Google, Discord. Microsoft also reported fewer cases in 2024, reportedly. That's the first decline in 6 years, and this is a matter of serious concern. Critics say that the tech giants are putting privacy over child safety. They say that the tech giants are rolling out encryption without the appropriate tools to catch the abusers. And Facebook says it's simplified its reporting system and is still committed to helping law enforcement. And sure, Facebook has systems in place that can handle child abuse reports, but the question still is, if something that is supposed to protect the users is not working, is it even doing its job right? Shifting focus for now, US President Donald Trump's tariff moves have now reached the movies. Recently, the US President said that non-US films or those made in foreign countries will be hit with 100% tariffs. According to Trump, the American movie industry was dying, quote unquote, a very fast death due to the incentives that other countries were offering to lure filmmakers. Trump has gone a step further to declare it as a national security threat in his Truth Social post. But how exactly does he plan to proceed with this? Well, he seeks to authorize the US Department of Commerce and Trade to immediately begin the process of imposing a 100% tariff on all films produced abroad that are then exported to the United States. However, the details of this move remain somewhat unclear at this point, since Trump's statement did not cover whether the tariff would apply to American production companies producing films abroad. It was also unclear if the tariffs would apply to films on streaming services and OTT platforms. Even as pitched as a tit-for-tat move against China's decision to limit imports of Hollywood films, Trump's tariffs against non-US films will not be an easy one to execute. Every year, countries like Canada, the UK, Australia, even European countries like Hungary and Italy often act as bases for thousands of films produced by America, owing to lower costs and other benefits. And film production, unlike manufactured objects, are hardly identified by their nationality of production. Therefore, it is incredibly difficult to zero down on what makes for an American and what is a non-American film. Given the investments made, the labor source, the revenue generated from around the world, moreover, thanks to digitization, films are truly believed to have a multinational character. And an industry like Hollywood thrives on this very feature. Therefore, how does Trump even plan to justify his tariff imposition on something which is not exactly marked by geographical borders or not exactly defined by well-drawn boundaries per se? In terms of production, distribution, marketing, overall, the international appeal, questions which, as of now, do not have clear answers. Moving on for now, where does gold truly come from? We're not talking about the vaults or the mines. What is the origin of the most loved precious metal? The answer is stranger and more thrilling than what you might think. Recent research unveiling that gold and other heavy elements may have originated from eruptions on rare, highly magnetized neutron stars known as magnetars. Take a look.
Before Earth, before the Sun, before even the first galaxies, the universe was a dark sea of hydrogen and helium. Heavy metals like gold were nowhere to be found. Every gold ring, necklace, or coin you possess is a relic of an ancient cosmic creation. These precious metals were not formed on Earth, but were birthed in the universe's most violent events. Gold's birth is written in the violence of the universe. For decades, scientists believed that supernovae and neutron star collisions forged the universe's heaviest elements. But now, new research points to an even rarer, more explosive birthplace, the magnetar. So what really is a magnetar? So basically a neutron star is the collapsed cores of stars that have exploded. They are so dense that 1 teaspoon of neutron star material on Earth would weigh as much as 1 billion tons. A magnetar is a neutron star with an extremely powerful magnetic field. These magnetic fields are so intense they can twist themselves apart in starquakes, unleashing flares powerful enough to shake Earth's atmosphere. NASA says that in these moments, the unimaginable happens. Neutrons slam into lighter atoms, forcing them up the elemental ladder. Within seconds, the chaos inside a magnetar flare can create more gold and platinum than the mass of Mars. These cosmic factories, scientists now say, may be responsible for up to 10% of all the gold and heavy metals in our galaxy. But the story isn't over. Magnetar flares hurl these precious atoms across space, seeding newborn stars and planets, including our own. Every ring, coin, and bar of gold on Earth is a relic of these ancient explosive events, a testament to the universe's wildest extremes. So next time you see gold, remember, it was born in a cosmic firestorm in the heart of a starquake, long before our world began.
Shifting focus now, with excitement building up for the Met Gala, the stars are all set to dazzle on the red carpet. And adding to that buzz is Indian singer Diljit Dosanjh, who has just dropped some exciting inside details ahead of his grand debut at that iconic event. The hitmaker took to his Instagram to share a sneak peek into what's happening behind the scenes. From guest list to outfit plans, the singer is currently in New York gearing up for his big debut there. Unlike most celebrities who stay tight-lipped about their Met Gala looks, the star has been giving fans a front-row seat to his journey, documenting everything from his travel to sneak peeks of his outfit. In fact, in a recent video, the pop star flaunted his official Met Gala invite, even joking with friends not to send him wedding invitations anymore because of the exclusive Met invite. He showed off the elegant invite cover and read out parts of it, also revealing this year's theme. And that's not all. He also shared that he will be seated with none other than NBA legend LeBron James and rapper A$AP Rocky. The Met Gala is all set to unfold in New York, and while the music sensation prepares for his big moment, fans are also excited about the appearance of the Indian superstar Shah Rukh Khan. All eyes will be on the red carpet. Let me now ask you a question. When was the last time you celebrated a failure? Sounds like a bizarre question, perhaps? Hear me out. You see, celebrations are synonymous with success. You achieve something, it must be celebrated. But these parents from India's Karnataka chose to break that age-old pattern. And how? By throwing a party after their son failed in the Class 10 board exams. Yes, they celebrated. To lift his spirits, they cut a cake with his score of 32% written on top of it. The message to the student: cheer up, study harder now, do better next time, and don't worry that you failed. You may have failed in the exams, but not in life. And their gesture has been winning hearts online. Why not? It is, after all, a unique and extraordinary way of showing support and encouragement. In a way, also reinforcing how your marks, or your failures for that matter, in no way define you. And this is all the more important at a time when the stress that students have to go through has been a major concern. The takeaway here is simple. Why just celebrate success? Failure can be celebrated as well, and no setback is big enough. Learn from it, power through. Do you agree with this? Write to us and let us know what you think. Time now for Gravitas Recall. Today, 80 years ago, victory in Europe, or VE Day, marked the end of World War II in Europe. Huge crowds took to the streets on the 8th of May, 1945, to celebrate after nearly 6 years of war. To mark this occasion, 4 days of commemorative events planned across the UK from the 5th to the 8th of May. In fact, on Monday itself, more than 1,300 armed forces and members of the public took part in a military procession from Whitehall to Buckingham Palace. The event was graced by World War II veterans who watched from the end of the mall at Queen Victoria Memorial alongside the Queen, the King, UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer, Actor Timothy Spall opened the parade in London by reenacting parts from the speech made by the former British Prime Minister Winston Churchill on this very day.
This is not a victory of a party or of any class. It's a victory of the great British nation as a whole. We were the first in this ancient island to draw the sword against tyranny. Every man, woman and child in the country had no thought of quitting the struggle. When shall the reputation and faith of this generation of men and women fail?
And this was followed by a flypast of current and historic military aircraft with the Royal Air Force's red arrows leaving red, white and blue smoke trails in the sky. A small group of Ukrainian soldiers took part in a British military procession. Ukrainian personnel joined around 1,000 UK Armed Forces members, including soldiers on horseback and military bands, to symbolize the global support for their continued fight for freedom against Russia. One of the highlights of the event being the presence of the royal family at the military parade, and this marks a rare coming together of the 3 generations who paid their tributes to the war heroes. And with that, it's a wrap on this edition of Gravitas Tonight. This is me, Molly Gambhir, signing off, leaving you with Gravitas Worldview. Thanks for watching.
From protests to rejecting the CFA franc to condemnation worldwide, alliance of the Sahel nations of Burkina Faso, Niger and Mali now expand their Confederal Bank as other countries in the region, including Togo, intimate their interests to join the group. Nigeria's President Bola Tinubu promises to better equip his troops to combat the insurgency in the country's north, which has surged in recent weeks. And scientists create one anti-venom to treat snake bites using antibodies from a California man's blood. Tim Freed has injected himself with snake venom 654 times over 18 years. Watch World of Africa at these times on WION. World is One.
Watch me on Token Money Magnet, where I decode tokenization for you only on WION.
Vielleicht nur als Imposant.
The Earth is sending distress signals. Wildfires, droughts, and melting glaciers. Can we reverse the damage? Explore the harrowing effects of climate change. It's a wake-up call. Global emergency. Climate Tracker on WION World is One.
And thank you for staying with us. This is WION World is One. We're glad you're watching. Time now for Pulse. I'm Eric Njoka. Let's begin this broadcast.